Have you ever noticed how some of the most powerful leaders and thinkers in history hardly ever speak? They don't need to. The way they use silence tells you more about their power and strategy than 1,000 words ever could. In a world filled with noise, constantly rushing to be heard, silence has become the true weapon of influence. Whether it's in politics, business, or personal relationships, the ability to remain silent at the right moment can change the course of history. Imagine the great leaders like Winston Churchill, who knew exactly when to speak and when to remain silent, leaving others in suspense, wondering what his next move would be. Or Nelson Mandela, whose silence during his imprisonment gave him an aura of moral authority, making his every word, when he chose to speak, resonate across the globe. So, what makes silence such a powerful strategy? Why is it that the ones who say less often command the most attention? And how can you use the art of silence to gain control in your own life? Stick around, because in this video, we are diving deep into the strategic value of silence, from Machiavelli's timeless wisdom to how modern leaders use it to dominate their fields. Whether you're in a business meeting, negotiating a deal, or simply trying to navigate your personal relationships, you're about to learn the secret to mastering this powerful tool. Before we jump into it, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you're finding this video insightful, hit that super thanks button to show your support. It means the world to us. So, are you ready to find out how silence can make you the most powerful person in the room? Let's dive right in. In a world that thrives on constant communication, social media updates, and an ever-present need to be heard, the idea of silence as a powerful tool may seem counterintuitive. Yet, this is exactly what Niccolò Machiavelli, one of history's most influential political theorists, argued for. Machiavelli's theory, rooted in his classic work The Prince, suggests that silence, far from being a sign of weakness, is in fact a strategic weapon that can be wielded to gain power, control, and influence in ways that excessive talk and noise cannot. In the bustling modern world, we are surrounded by an endless stream of opinions, statements, and noise. From politicians constantly broadcasting their thoughts to the social media user who feels compelled to share their every feeling, we are a society addicted to speaking. But amidst all this noise, Machiavelli's words remain relevant. Silence is the ultimate weapon in the arsenal of power. The question that arises then is, why do so many of us overlook the power of silence? Why do we often feel the need to fill every gap with words? And why is silence such an effective and powerful tool? Machiavelli observed that those who speak the most are often the least in control. They may project an image of strength, but they are, in reality, revealing their thoughts, desires, and strategies too early. In contrast, those who understand the power of silence are able to maintain control of situations, manage their power strategically, and retain the upper hand. The idea that silence can be more powerful than speech is rooted in Machiavelli's understanding of human psychology and the dynamics of power. The power of silence, according to Machiavelli, is not just about refraining from talking. It's about creating an aura of mystery, unpredictability, and control that keeps others constantly guessing. Silence allows you to hold your cards close to your chest while others are compelled to expose their own. When you speak too much, you give away your intentions, your strategies, and your vulnerabilities. But silence allows you to maintain an advantage by withholding information and forcing others to reveal more than they might have intended. The concept of silence as power is something that extends beyond politics. In the corporate world, for example, silence can be a game changer. Think of any high-stakes negotiation. The person who speaks first often commits to a position that limits their options. However, the person who remains quiet holds the advantage. They can observe, analyze, and wait for the other party to reveal their hand. It's a strategic move, one that ensures you're never locked into a position prematurely. Silence in these situations gives you the time and flexibility to act when the moment is right. And when you speak, your words carry far more weight because they've been chosen deliberately and thoughtfully. This principle applies not only to business negotiations, but also to personal relationships. How often have we seen someone talk excessively in a conversation, filling the air with their words out of anxiety, excitement, or even insecurity? In contrast, the person who remains quiet in such conversations often commands more respect. They seem thoughtful, measured, and in control. People are naturally drawn to those who speak less, but say more with the few words they choose to use. It's a dynamic rooted in the psychology of human interaction. When someone speaks too much, they often reveal more than they should. But the person who remains silent allows others to project their own thoughts and assumptions onto them. They become a mirror, reflecting the desires and insecurities of others without revealing their own cards. Machiavelli's theory on silence isn't about being passive or disengaged. It's about strategic inaction. It's about the ability to choose when to speak and, just as importantly, when not to speak. In a world obsessed with constant communication, where everyone is desperate to be heard, the person who can master the art of silence stands out. They are able to control the flow of information, creating a situation where others are compelled to speak more and reveal their strategies. Fears and weaknesses. One of the most fascinating aspects of silence as a power strategy is how it forces others to fill the void. People are uncomfortable with silence. It creates a psychological tension that many feel compelled to relieve by talking. In doing so, they often expose more than they intend. This is especially true in negotiations, where a well-timed silence can force the other party to make concessions or provide information they would not have otherwise revealed. The power of silence, then, is not about withholding information to be secretive. It's about creating an environment in which others reveal more than they should, giving you an advantage. This technique can be seen in various historical contexts. Consider the story of the ancient Chinese strategist Sun Tzu, who wrote in The Art of War about the importance of deception and surprise in warfare. Just as Machiavelli advocated for silence in political maneuvering, Sun Tzu understood that revealing too much too soon is a strategic blunder. The best generals were those who kept their plans hidden, allowing their enemies to expose their vulnerabilities first. Silence, in this sense, becomes a form of psychological warfare, a way to destabilize your opponent by keeping them in the dark about your true intentions. In modern times, we can look at examples of leaders who have understood the importance of silence and how it has worked to their advantage. One prominent example is Warren Buffett, the legendary investor known for his careful, measured speech. Buffett's approach to communication is the embodiment of Machiavelli's philosophy. He speaks sparingly, but when he does, his words carry significant weight. His silence during many public discussions has allowed him to build an aura of wisdom and authority, while others often reveal too much in their eagerness to be heard. Another example can be found in the realm of politics. Barack Obama was known for his calm, measured responses and his ability to remain silent in the face of provocation. His strategic use of silence allowed him to avoid making rash decisions or statements, and it gave him time to analyze situations before responding. Obama's approach to communication demonstrated how effective silence could be in leadership. By speaking less, he created an aura of control, patience, and thoughtfulness, qualities that resonated with both his supporters and his opponents. Silence can also be a powerful tool in personal relationships. Think about a situation where someone is angry or upset and is speaking rapidly, perhaps saying things they don't mean. In these moments, remaining silent can be the most powerful response. Rather than reacting impulsively or adding fuel to the fire with more words, silence allows space for emotions to settle and for the situation to de-escalate. By choosing silence, you communicate control over your emotions and the situation, forcing the other person to reflect on their own words and behavior. In conclusion, the strength of silence lies not in its absence of words, but in its ability to shape and control interactions. Silence creates a psychological space where power dynamics can shift, where information asymmetry is achieved, and where strategy and control are maintained. Machiavelli's insight into the importance of silence is as relevant today as it was in his time, reminding us that in a world filled with noise, the quiet observer often holds the most power. Silence, when used strategically, is not a passive absence, but an active force, a tool that can influence, manipulate, and control the course of events in ways that words alone cannot. The next time you find yourself in a position of power, remember the lessons of Machiavelli. Choose your words carefully, but know that sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. Machiavelli's theory on power, as presented in The Prince, emphasizes a fundamental principle that remains as relevant today as it was during the Renaissance. Silence is not a weakness, but rather a powerful tool, often more effective than speech. This strategic silence is not simply the absence of words, but an active form of control and influence. For Machiavelli, silence is the most refined expression of power, a tactic that serves to create a sense of mystery, unpredictability, and authority. In a world where everyone is vying to be heard, the one who can control their speech, choosing the right moments to speak, and, more crucially, the right moments to remain silent, holds the ultimate advantage. One of the reasons why silence is so powerful is that it allows a leader or strategist to cultivate an aura of unpredictability. When a person speaks too much, they make themselves vulnerable. Their thoughts, desires, and plans are exposed, and the opponent can predict their next move. However, when a person remains silent, they become a puzzle, an enigma that others cannot easily decipher. This creates a psychological advantage because silence forces others to project their own assumptions, strategies, and intentions onto the silent figure, without truly knowing the individual's true position. Consider Winston Churchill, a leader whose strategic use of silence exemplifies the power of this tactic. Churchill is widely known for his ability to speak with great authority when necessary, but he was also a master of knowing when to withhold his words. During crucial moments of World War II, he was selective in his speeches, delivering them only when the situation demanded. His words were not frequent, but when he spoke, they were potent and carried immense weight. Churchill understood that excessive speech would dilute his authority and undermine his strategic position. Instead, he cultivated an air of mystery, allowing his silence to communicate strength. His enemies were often left guessing, uncertain of his next move. This uncertainty was a critical element of his leadership, and it was precisely what allowed him to outmaneuver his opponents. Silence, then, serves as a tool for creating a psychological barrier between the speaker and their audience. By choosing to speak less, a person projects an image of being in control of the situation, as if they are always one step ahead. It is this calculated restraint that causes others to view them with a sense of awe and respect. People are naturally drawn to those who remain silent, as they tend to assume that there is depth behind the quiet demeanor. The person who talks excessively, on the other hand, often reveals too much and loses their sense of mystery. As Machiavelli observed, men judge more by the eye than by the hand. In other words, people perceive what is visible, and silence becomes a way to control what is seen, presenting an image of strength and wisdom. The less a person speaks, the more others tend to admire them, attributing qualities like wisdom, authority, and control to them, regardless of whether those qualities actually exist. The power of silence can also be seen in its ability to create an aura of unpredictability. Silence, by its very nature, introduces an element of uncertainty. When a person is silent, others are forced to interpret their behavior and intentions, often projecting their own fears, hopes, and assumptions onto the individual. This uncertainty can be an incredibly powerful tool in negotiations, politics, and warfare. By remaining silent, a person forces their opponent to act without knowing their true position, creating a psychological advantage. This unpredictability is what makes silence such a valuable asset in the strategic toolbox. It allows the silent individual to control the pace of the interaction, dictating when and how information is revealed. Take, for example, the dynamic between leaders in business negotiations. A well-timed silence can be the difference between success and failure. In a high-stakes meeting, the individual who remains silent while the other party speaks may gather crucial insights. The silence forces the opponent to reveal more than they intend, exposing their vulnerabilities, desires, and intentions. In contrast, the person who talks too much risks overexposing themselves, losing the advantage and revealing their strategy before it has been fully developed. This principle is often observed in the business world, where successful negotiators are known for their ability to remain quiet, carefully listening and observing, rather than speaking impulsively. Machiavelli's concept of silence is also closely tied to the idea of controlling the flow of information. Silence allows individuals to withhold information, which is crucial in any power dynamic. When someone speaks, they inevitably reveal something about their position, their plans, or their thoughts. In contrast, when a person remains silent, they can control when and how information is shared, often using silence to extract information from others. This strategic withholding of information creates an asymmetry of knowledge. Where the person who remains silent is in a position of power, while the one who speaks is at a disadvantage. This concept is exemplified in the world of politics, where leaders often use silence to manipulate public perception. One of the most striking examples of this is the way in which Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia, often employs silence to project power and maintain control. Putin is known for his ability to remain tight-lipped in situations where others might speak out. His silence creates an image of a leader who is always in control, calculating, and unpredictable. His silence during key moments forces his adversaries to speculate about his intentions, creating a psychological barrier that gives him a strategic advantage. In this way, silence becomes a form of power, one that can be used to manipulate the course of events without ever uttering a word. Moreover, silence can also be used to assert authority. People tend to attribute more significance to the words of those who speak sparingly, especially if their silence is coupled with a reputation for wisdom or strength. When someone speaks less frequently, their words are often seen as more valuable. The strategic use of silence allows an individual to enhance the impact of their speech, making every word they say carry more weight. This is why, in many cultures, individuals in positions of power are often expected to speak less than others. The fewer words they use, the more their audience will listen and respect their opinion. By speaking less, these individuals create an air of exclusivity and importance, making their words seem more profound than those of others who speak more freely. The power of silence is also linked to the idea of patience. In many ways, silence requires a level of self-discipline and control that is difficult to maintain in a world that demands constant communication. The person who can remain silent in the face of provocation, who can hold their tongue when others are speaking out of turn, demonstrates a rare form of self-control. This kind of restraint is often associated with strength and wisdom. It communicates that the individual is not impulsive or reactive, but rather calculated and composed. Silence, in this sense, becomes an outward expression of inner strength. Those who speak too readily or without thought, on the other hand, are often seen as weak or lacking in self-discipline. Machiavelli's analysis of silence reveals that it is not merely an absence of speech, but an active choice that shapes how others perceive you. By speaking less, you can create a psychological advantage, control the flow of information, and enhance the impact of your words. Silence allows you to maintain an air of mystery, unpredictability, and authority, which in turn gives you the upper hand in any situation. In a world that is constantly speaking, those who master the art of silence often find themselves in a position of power, commanding the respect and attention of others without uttering a single word. It is this quiet strength, this ability to remain silent and still hold sway over those around you, that is perhaps the greatest manifestation of true power. Silence, in a strategic context, is more than just an absence of speech. It is a powerful tool for gathering intelligence, analyzing situations, and making decisions with precision. While it may seem passive, silence serves as an active and highly effective method for observing, understanding, and exploiting the information that others might overlook or unintentionally expose. Those who understand the power of silence know that withholding words gives them an unparalleled advantage in situations of negotiation, leadership, and conflict. By observing the behavior, reactions, and words of others in a space of quiet, they can collect crucial insights, discern motivations, and spot opportunities that would otherwise remain hidden. The most successful negotiators, diplomats, and strategists understand that information is not just about what is said, but about what is left unsaid. In the world of high-stakes negotiations and diplomacy, those who speak less often end up with more. Silence becomes the tool that not only allows individuals to gather information, but also to control the flow of conversation. By maintaining a silent stance, they create an environment in which others feel compelled to fill the gap with words that often expose their underlying thoughts, intentions, fears, and weaknesses. Consider the example of Henry Kissinger, a diplomat and political strategist who served as the U.S. Secretary of State and National Security Advisor during the Nixon and Ford administrations. His silence was not an accident. It was a deliberate strategy. By withholding his own thoughts and waiting for others to speak, Kissinger was able to observe the dynamics in the room and gain insights that others might miss. His silence allowed him to hear not only what was being said, but also how it was being said, the tone, the pauses, the hesitations, all of which provided critical information about the person speaking and their true intentions. In his famous shuttle diplomacy during the Middle East peace talks, Kissinger often used silence to his advantage, allowing his counterparts to reveal more information than they intended, which helped him shape the conversations and guide the negotiations in ways that benefited U.S. interests. This approach to silence is not limited to diplomacy or high-level negotiations. It is just as effective in personal interactions and business settings. In meetings, for example, when someone takes the time to remain silent, allowing the conversation to flow without immediate interruption, they give others the space to reveal their thoughts and ideas. In doing so, they're not just collecting information passively, but actively shaping the conversation. People tend to fill silence with their own words, and in doing so, they often reveal more than they intended. This is particularly useful when trying to understand the motivations of others or when attempting to gather intelligence about a situation. Silence works as a form of pressure. When a person remains silent during a conversation or negotiation, the silence can create discomfort or anxiety in others. Humans are naturally uncomfortable with silence, and many feel compelled to break it with words. This discomfort often leads to the release of information that might not have been shared otherwise. The person who remains silent becomes an observer, gathering intelligence while others reveal their strategies, fears, and weaknesses in an attempt to fill the void. In fact, silence becomes an interrogation tool, one that forces others to speak without them even realizing they are being manipulated. The power of silence lies in its ability to create this psychological pressure, where others feel the need to offer more than they originally planned. A modern example of this technique in action can be seen in the world of business. Consider a negotiation where two parties are discussing the terms of a deal. The person who remains silent, letting the other side speak first, is in the stronger position. This is especially true when the other side feels the need to justify their position or fill the silence with additional details. By not speaking immediately, the silent party creates an opening for the other side to disclose information they might otherwise withhold. This allows the silent negotiator to gather valuable insights, adjust their strategy, and respond in a way that maximizes their advantage. For instance, in the world of real estate, successful brokers often employ the tactic of silence in negotiations with buyers or sellers. After making an offer or asking a question, They remain quiet, allowing the other party to respond or counter. This silence gives the broker the upper hand by forcing the other side to reveal their bottom line or other important information. The power of silence is rooted in its ability to control the flow of conversation. In any negotiation or conversation, the person who speaks first is often the one who sets the tone and direction of the interaction. However, the person who waits and listens, who chooses to remain silent, can observe and gather the necessary information to respond strategically. Silence gives the observer the time and space to understand the other person's motivations and intentions. It allows them to assess the situation fully before making a decision or contributing their own thoughts. In addition to gathering information, silence also serves as a tool for strategic advantage. By withholding information and refraining from speaking prematurely, a person retains control over when and how they choose to reveal their thoughts. This gives them a significant advantage in situations where the timing of information is critical. For example, in a corporate setting, when discussing a potential partnership or investment, revealing too much too soon can put a person or company at a disadvantage. By remaining silent and allowing the other party to speak first, they can gain insight into the other party's position and adjust their response accordingly. This is especially useful when navigating complex negotiations, where revealing too much information too soon can give the other side an edge. Silence is not only valuable for gathering information, but also for maintaining flexibility. When a person speaks too much, they often limit their options by committing to a particular position. Once words are spoken, they can become difficult to retract, and the individual may be forced to defend or adhere to a stance they may not be entirely comfortable with. In contrast, silence allows for greater adaptability. By holding back and observing, a person can remain open to new information and make decisions based on the most current and relevant facts. This flexibility is crucial in negotiations, business dealings, and even in personal relationships, where things can change rapidly and the ability to adapt is key to success. The role of silence in information gathering is also evident in the world of intelligence and law enforcement. Skilled interrogators and detectives understand the power of silence as a tool to extract information. The technique of the silent treatment is often used in interrogations to force the person being questioned to fill the silence with details that might incriminate themselves or reveal their motives. By remaining silent, the interrogator applies psychological pressure, making the subject uncomfortable and more likely to disclose information without realizing it. This approach has been used successfully by law enforcement agencies and intelligence services around the world to gather critical intelligence and uncover hidden truths. At its core, silence is a tool for observation. It allows individuals to take a step back from the situation, free from the noise and distractions of constant communication, and truly assess what is happening. In any high-stakes environment, whether it be a business negotiation, diplomatic talks, or personal interaction, silence allows individuals to focus on the most important elements of the conversation: the behavior, reactions, and words of others. It creates the space needed to truly understand the situation, gather the necessary information, and make a strategic decision. Silence as a tool for gathering information is not just about what is revealed by others in response to silence, but also about the clarity it provides to the individual using it. In moments of silence, one is able to think critically, weigh options, and formulate responses that are more thoughtful and strategic. This ability to remain calm, to collect information, and to assess the situation from a place of quiet observation is what distinguishes the master strategist from those who act impulsively. In conclusion, silence is an invaluable tool for gathering information, understanding others, and maintaining control over the flow of conversation. Whether used in business negotiations, diplomatic discussions, or personal relationships, silence enables individuals to observe, listen, and analyze without the distractions of excessive speech. By allowing others to fill the silence, the silent participant gains insights into their opponent's thoughts, intentions, and vulnerabilities. This information, once gathered, can be used to craft a response that is strategic, informed, and ultimately advantageous. In both politics and business, silence is an incredibly powerful tool that can determine the outcome of crucial decisions. Machiavelli, in his writings, emphasized the importance of silence, urging leaders and strategists to speak only when necessary. According to his philosophy, a well-timed, carefully chosen word carries much more weight than a constant stream of rhetoric. Silence allows those in power to hold the upper hand, manage their position more effectively, and avoid unnecessary complications in negotiations. The strategic use of silence in both politics and business serves not just as a method of control, but as an essential tactic for ensuring that the flow of information and the direction of decisions are handled with precision and authority. One of the primary reasons why silence is so important in these fields is because it allows leaders to manage their own presence. For example, consider the political environment where politicians are often under constant scrutiny. Every statement, every tweet, every word spoken is analyzed and dissected by the media, opponents, and the public. In this context, speaking too much can be a liability. When politicians or business leaders speak without purpose, they risk exposing their intentions, inadvertently revealing strategies, or creating divisions among supporters. This is why Machiavelli, in his seminal work The Prince, advised rulers to speak rarely, especially when the matters at hand are significant. Speaking without caution, according to Machiavelli, can lead to disastrous consequences because it provides others with ammunition that can be used against you. The wisdom of speaking only when necessary is evident in the careers of modern-day strategists like Warren Buffett and Steve Jobs. Both of these individuals are known for their quiet, measured approach to communication, especially in situations where their words could have the most significant impact. Warren Buffett, for example, is famous for his annual letters to Berkshire Hathaway shareholders. These letters are carefully crafted and filled with insight, but Buffett does not speak excessively. In fact, his public statements are few and far between. When Buffett speaks, his words carry weight because they are not diluted by unnecessary chatter. He's a master of restraint, and when he does speak, it is with purpose. His silence over the years has built up an aura of authority, where the public and investors hang on to every word he says. People do not hear from him all the time, but when they do, they listen carefully. This strategic use of silence makes his opinions more powerful and respected. Similarly, Steve Jobs, the co-founder of Apple, was known for his reserved nature and minimalistic communication style. Jobs was not one to engage in public discussions or press conferences unless it was essential. However, when he did speak, whether it was a product launch or a keynote speech, his words were powerful and impactful. Jobs understood the psychology of silence. When you speak less, your words gain more significance. The rarity of his public appearances, paired with his visionary ideas, elevated him to the status of a legend in the tech world. His speeches were not frequent, but they were filled with meaning, and his ability to command attention with his few words set him apart from the countless others in the tech industry who often spoke too much, too often, in both politics and business. The ability to stay silent gives individuals the power to control when and how they reveal their thoughts, ideas, and strategies. The strategic use of silence in negotiations, for example, can be a deciding factor in the outcome. In high-stakes negotiations, the person who speaks first often commits to a position and may inadvertently limit their options. By staying silent, however, a negotiator allows the other party to reveal their cards first. This positions the silent party in a place of power, as they can listen carefully, analyze the information being shared, and adjust their approach accordingly. Silence can, in effect, force the other party to expose more than they might have intended, giving the individual who remains silent an edge. Take, for example, a major corporate negotiation. Imagine two companies are discussing a potential merger. The first company comes out strong, outlining its terms and expectations, presenting itself confidently. The second company remains quiet, allowing the first to talk. By staying silent, the second company can observe the first party's position, understand their priorities, and identify potential weaknesses. After listening carefully, the second company can then present a counteroffer that is more refined and better positioned to achieve its goals. This is the strategic advantage that silence provides in negotiations. It gives one party the opportunity to listen, analyze, and craft a more informed response. This dynamic is not just limited to business or corporate negotiations. It also plays a vital role in political maneuvering. Henry Kissinger, the former U.S. Secretary of State and National Security Advisor, is another example of a leader who mastered the art of silence in diplomacy. His famous use of shuttle diplomacy during the Middle East peace process was not just about engaging in conversations, but about knowing when to speak and when to remain silent. Kissinger was known for his ability to create a space where silence could work in his favor. While others spoke, he quietly observed, gathering intelligence and assessing the situation. By withholding his own thoughts, Kissinger was able to control the flow of information, prompting others to speak more freely and reveal their true positions. Another political leader who understood the importance of silence was Barack Obama. Throughout his presidency, Obama was known for his calm, collected demeanor, and he often practiced silence in moments of crisis or during politically charged situations. Rather than rushing to make a statement or engage in unnecessary dialogue, Obama would take time to assess the situation, carefully considering the implications of his words. His silence in these moments communicated authority and control, signaling to both his supporters and detractors that he was not driven by impulse, but rather by calculated decision-making. This approach not only made his words more impactful, but also created an aura of stability and wisdom around his leadership. The strategic use of silence also plays a role in political campaigns. Candidates who are too eager to speak often end up alienating voters or revealing too much about their policies, leaving themselves vulnerable to attack. On the other hand, candidates who can master silence, who choose their moments to speak wisely, tend to appear more measured, more thoughtful, and more in control. Ronald Reagan, known as the Great Communicator, was a master of this technique. He understood the power of saying less and allowing the moment to dictate when he would speak. Reagan's ability to wait for the right time to address a situation or issue gave him an air of authority that few could match. The reason why silence is such a powerful tool in both politics and business is because it forces others to act without knowing your true intentions. When a person speaks too much, they inadvertently reveal their cards. They may expose their goals, their fears, and their strategies, which can later be used against them. But by staying silent, they maintain a sense of mystery, leaving others uncertain and off balance. This uncertainty forces the other party to reveal more than they initially intended, which gives the silent party the ability to shape the conversation and outcome to their advantage. In both political leadership and corporate negotiations, the person who speaks less but with purpose holds the true power. Silence in this context is not just about withholding words. It is about controlling the flow of information, maintaining flexibility, and giving others the space to reveal more than they might have intended. Those who are skilled at using silence can manipulate the conversation, maintain the upper hand, and achieve their goals with precision. The key to success in both politics and business often lies not in how much you speak, but in how well you control your silence. Whether in a political debate, a corporate meeting, or a diplomatic negotiation, the power of silence allows leaders to make more informed decisions, command authority, and keep their true intentions hidden until the right moment arises. Silence, when used strategically, has the unique power to create advantages in both time and direction, especially in high-stakes situations such as business negotiations, political maneuvering, and even warfare. While it may seem counterintuitive in a world that prizes constant communication and rapid decision-making, those who understand the nuances of silence often find themselves in the most advantageous positions. Silence allows individuals to pause, gather information, and assess the evolving dynamics of a situation before making a move. It creates a breathing room space to think, observe, and wait for the most opportune moment to act. It is not about passivity. Rather, it is an active form of patience, one that gives the silent individual the ability to control the flow of events without being rushed into a reaction. In moments of conflict, whether in politics, business, or personal interactions, the person who speaks too quickly or acts without fully considering the situation often makes themselves vulnerable. They may reveal their intentions, commit to positions too soon, or limit their options by acting out of a sense of urgency. In contrast, those who know when to remain silent have the ability to assess the changing circumstances, adapt to new information, and then make decisions that are informed and calculated. Silence allows them to remain flexible, ensuring that when the moment arrives for action, they can take the most appropriate step, one that will maximize their chances of success. A powerful example of this principle can be found in the military strategies of Napoleon Bonaparte, who is often regarded as one of the greatest tacticians and military leaders in history. Napoleon, despite his reputation for decisive action, was also a master of timing and silence. He knew that not every battle needed to be fought immediately, and not every moment required an immediate decision. In some cases, the best course of action was to wait, observe, and allow the situation to unfold. By exercising strategic silence, Napoleon was able to control the flow of information and manage his forces in a way that kept his enemies guessing. He was a keen observer of his adversaries, and his ability to remain silent in critical moments allowed him to see things that others could not. This, in turn, gave him the ability to make decisions at the right time, often changing the course of battles and entire campaigns. One of the most famous examples of Napoleon's use of silence and patience can be seen during the Battle of Austerlitz in 1805, one of his greatest victories. Leading the French army against a combined Russian and Austrian force, Napoleon deliberately allowed his enemies to believe they had the upper hand. He feigned weakness, keeping his forces scattered and seemingly disorganized. In doing so, he invited his adversaries to take the initiative to commit themselves to an attack. But Napoleon, aware of the strategic importance of timing, chose to remain silent and let his enemies play into his hands. When they finally made their move, Napoleon struck decisively, using the terrain to his advantage and catching the opposing forces off guard. By remaining silent and allowing the situation to unfold, he was able to control the timing of his counterattack, leading to a crushing victory. In this case, silence was not about inaction. It was about biding time until the moment for action was right. This idea of waiting for the right moment and controlling the pace of events extends beyond warfare. In the world of business, timing is often just as important as strategy. Companies that act too hastily, rushing to make decisions without fully considering their options, often find themselves in difficult positions. Conversely, those who take a more measured approach, allowing the market to reveal its movements and gathering as much information as possible, are often able to make more informed and successful decisions. Companies like Apple and Amazon have become giants in their respective industries not by rushing into decisions, but by waiting for the right opportunities. For instance, Steve Jobs, known for his visionary leadership at Apple, often exercised silence during the development of new products. He was known for his ability to wait for the right moment to release a new innovation, instead of rushing products to market to compete with other tech giants. Jobs and his team at Apple would hold back until they could release a product that was not only groundbreaking, but also well-timed. In doing so, they created not just products, but moments in time like the launch of the iPhone that changed the tech landscape forever. In business, silence allows leaders to gather information before making decisions. Whether in a negotiation with competitors or in discussions about future business strategies, silence provides the space for others to reveal their positions, their intentions, and their weaknesses. A leader who knows when to be silent can gather intelligence, assess the situation, and then act with purpose and clarity. This ability to delay action and wait for the most opportune moment is critical in the fast-paced business world, where premature decisions can lead to costly mistakes. This principle of silence, creating the perfect moment for action, also applies in the realm of politics. Political leaders who speak too soon often find themselves boxed into positions that they cannot easily escape from. Once a statement is made, it becomes part of the public record, and it can be used against the speaker by opponents, the media, or the public. This is why many successful politicians are masters of timing. They know when to speak and, just as importantly, when to remain silent. Barack Obama, during his presidency, often demonstrated the power of silence and strategic timing. One of the most notable instances of this was during the negotiation of the Iran nuclear deal. While many leaders were calling for immediate action and decisive statements, Obama chose to remain silent and cautious, allowing the diplomatic process to unfold at its own pace. He did not rush to make grand declarations, but instead allowed the international community to engage in negotiations, gathering information, and allowing time for the dynamics of the situation to evolve. This strategy of waiting for the right moment helped secure a deal that, while controversial, was a significant diplomatic achievement. Obama's patience and ability to control the timing of his responses allowed him to influence the course of the negotiations and ultimately secure an agreement. The concept of timing and silence is not limited to moments of negotiation or high-stakes decisions. It can also apply to personal relationships and conflict resolution. In many interpersonal interactions, the person who speaks first often commits to a particular stance or opinion and may be unable to reverse that position later. In contrast, those who remain silent during a conflict often have the opportunity to observe their counterpart, to understand their true emotions, and to gather the information needed to resolve the issue in a more effective way. By allowing others to speak first, one can gain insights into their motivations and intentions, which can then be used to craft a more thoughtful and effective response. In the context of leadership, silence is also a powerful tool for fostering trust. Leaders who speak too much may inadvertently alienate those around them, creating an environment where they dominate the conversation and leave little room for others to contribute. Leaders who understand the power of silence, however, are able to give their team members the space to voice their opinions and ideas. This not only builds trust, but also encourages collaboration and creative problem-solving. The silence of a leader allows others to feel heard, valued, and respected, which ultimately contributes to a more cohesive and productive team dynamic. In the end, silence is not about inaction. It is about strategic patience. Those who understand when to wait, when to observe, and when to speak are the ones who ultimately achieve success. Silence allows individuals to create a sense of mystery, to gather critical information, and to control the flow of events. It gives them the time to make decisions that are informed, thoughtful, and perfectly timed, whether in politics, business, or personal interactions. Those who master the art of silence have the ability to shape outcomes, influence decisions, and seize opportunities at the right moment. In a world that often values speed and instant gratification, the ability to remain silent and act only when the time is right is a skill that sets the true leaders apart. Just as Napoleon Bonaparte knew when to hold his silence and when to strike, those who understand the power of timing and silence can dictate the course of their own destiny, both on the battlefield and in life. Machiavelli's teachings on power and strategy offer valuable insights into how silence can be utilized as a tool to maintain freedom and flexibility in decision-making. In his work, The Prince, he underscores the importance of knowing when to speak and, perhaps more critically, when to remain silent. Each word spoken, Machiavelli argued, narrows one's options and limits flexibility. On the other hand, silence allows an individual to keep all doors open, retaining the ability to respond to a situation with maximum adaptability. By not revealing one's thoughts or intentions prematurely, silence provides the strategic freedom to adjust to changing circumstances. ensuring that decisions can be made with greater insight and precision. Machiavelli's understanding of freedom and strategy highlights the paradox that every statement made reduces one's future options. When you speak or commit to a particular course of action, you often lock yourself into a position that can be difficult to alter. This is especially true in situations where the outcome is uncertain or the context may shift dramatically. In contrast, silence acts as a powerful tool for maintaining flexibility. By withholding your thoughts, you maintain the ability to act on new information, adjusting your course of action as the situation evolves. This kind of strategic silence is not about being passive. Rather, it is about creating room to maneuver, keeping your options open until the right moment to act presents itself. Consider the example of Winston Churchill during the early days of World War II. Churchill, renowned for his eloquent speeches and inspiring words, understood the value of silence in times of crisis. In the face of Britain's potential defeat, Churchill was often careful not to commit too soon to a specific course of action in public statements. His silence in critical moments allowed him to retain a degree of freedom in his decision-making. By not revealing his plans or intentions to the public, Churchill preserved his ability to act flexibly as the situation developed. His famous decision to stand firm during the Battle of Britain, while communicating determination and resolve through a few powerful words, showed how silence can preserve both flexibility and control in the face of uncertainty. Churchill's use of silence highlights a central principle in Machiavelli's theory. Maintaining a sense of mystery and unpredictability is essential for preserving power. When leaders speak too much, they give away their strategy, making it easier for opponents to anticipate their next move. This loss of strategic freedom can lead to mistakes, as decisions are no longer made based on fresh insights, but rather based on prior commitments. In contrast, a leader who exercises silence holds an advantage by withholding their intentions, keeping their enemies on edge, and ensuring they are not cornered by their own words. This concept of flexibility is not confined to wartime or political leadership. In the business world, flexibility in communication and decision-making is also a critical asset. Consider Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon. Early on in Amazon's history, Bezos kept many of his plans and strategies silent, allowing the company to maintain flexibility and adaptability as the business model evolved. For example, when Amazon first started, it was known as an online bookstore. But as the company grew, Bezos understood that the future of Amazon was far more expansive than just books. However, he did not immediately announce Amazon's foray into other areas. Instead, he kept the company's strategic direction flexible, letting the evolution of technology and consumer behavior guide the company's expansion into areas like cloud computing, logistics, and digital streaming. Bezos's strategic use of silence during critical periods allowed him to avoid prematurely locking the company into a rigid business model, instead keeping Amazon's options open to take advantage of emerging opportunities as they arose. In contrast, companies that commit too early to specific business models or strategies can find themselves at a disadvantage when the market shifts. Blockbuster is a prime example of a company that failed to maintain flexibility. Blockbuster was once the dominant player in the video rental industry, but it failed to adapt quickly enough to the rise of digital streaming and online rental services. Blockbuster's inability to pivot and adjust its strategy as the market changed is a result of overcommitment to a single course of action. If the company had exercised more strategic silence, perhaps by being less vocal about its business model and being more adaptive to changes in consumer behavior, it might have been able to shift its focus and respond to the digital revolution in time. In political leadership, silence also plays a crucial role in preserving flexibility, particularly during times of crisis. One of the best examples of this can be seen in Franklin D. Roosevelt's leadership during the Great Depression and World War II. Roosevelt faced numerous challenges during his presidency, and his ability to maintain flexibility in his decision-making was vital to his success. He often used silence to manage public expectations and avoid overcommitting to specific policies before fully assessing the situation. Roosevelt's famous fireside chats were a rare example of his public communication, and they were carefully timed to maintain a sense of control and direction without making sweeping promises that he might not be able to keep. In one famous instance, Roosevelt faced the decision of whether to intervene in the growing conflict in Europe as Nazi Germany expanded its reach. Instead of making a quick, public statement about America's involvement, Roosevelt remained silent, allowing time for diplomatic efforts to unfold. By not committing immediately, he preserved his options and gave himself the flexibility to shift policy as new information became available. When the time came, Roosevelt could act decisively, as he had kept his options open and had not boxed himself in with premature statements. This kind of strategic silence allowed him to act based on evolving circumstances, rather than being forced into decisions based on earlier commitments. In moments of crisis, silence can also act as a buffer, protecting a leader or decision-maker from reacting impulsively. This is especially important in situations where emotions run high or where there is intense pressure to act. By choosing silence in these moments, a leader can collect their thoughts, reflect on the available options, and make a more informed decision. In contrast, those who speak too quickly often find themselves regretting their words or actions. This is particularly evident in political debates, where hasty remarks can be used against a candidate in future campaigns. Leaders who embrace silence are better able to withstand the pressures of immediate reaction and maintain control over their decisions. Moreover, silence can foster a sense of authority and control. When a leader chooses not to speak immediately, it can convey confidence and self-assurance, as they are not hurried or influenced by external pressures. This can create a perception of strength, as others often assume that the silent individual is carefully considering their options, rather than rushing to speak or act impulsively. In business, this sense of control can be invaluable in negotiations, where the ability to wait for the right moment to speak can turn the tide of the discussion. When one party remains silent while the other fills the air with words, the silent party often gains the upper hand, as they have the luxury of waiting until they have gathered all necessary information before committing to a position. This flexibility afforded by silence also allows individuals to make decisions based on a broader perspective, rather than being constrained by their initial thoughts or emotions. Silence provides the mental space to step back from the situation and consider all options. It prevents individuals from becoming locked into a single path or viewpoint, allowing them to adjust and pivot as circumstances change. In this way, silence becomes a tool for resilience and adaptability, qualities that are essential for success in both business and leadership. In conclusion, Machiavelli's understanding of the strategic value of silence as a tool for flexibility and freedom is central to his broader philosophy of power. Silence allows individuals to keep their options open, adapt to changing circumstances, and avoid the constraints that come with committing to a specific course of action prematurely. Through silence, leaders maintain control, foster a sense of authority, and preserve their ability to make decisions based on the full scope of available information. Whether in the midst of a political crisis, a business negotiation, or a personal challenge, the ability to remain silent and wait for the right moment to act is often the key to success. Silence has an incredible ability to command power and respect. People who speak less, but with purpose, often create a sense of gravitas and authority. The simple act of withholding words in certain situations can elevate an individual in the eyes of others. Rather than diminishing their presence, silence often amplifies it. This principle is grounded in the human tendency to assign greater value to words that are rare and purposeful. Just as silence can be a powerful tool for personal reflection and tactical advantage, it also has the capacity to shape how others perceive you, increasing your influence and making you appear more powerful. Those who speak too much tend to dilute their authority. They make their thoughts and opinions freely available, which can often lead to overexposure and diminished impact. In contrast, individuals who use silence effectively become enigmatic figures, people whose actions and words are carefully measured and thoughtfully delivered. Silence, then, acts as a filter, preserving the power and significance of what is said. When someone speaks sparingly, their words carry more weight. In political, business, and social arenas, the person who is quiet and composed can often garner more attention and respect than those who speak at every opportunity. Consider the case of Nelson Mandela, one of the most revered political leaders of the 20th century. Mandela's use of silence during his long imprisonment and leadership of South Africa is a powerful example of how silence can create respect and authority. For much of his life, Mandela spoke sparingly, especially during his time in prison, where he used silence to reflect, observe, and gather strength. His silence was not passive. It was a conscious choice that created a powerful sense of mystery and gravitas around him. In a way, Mandela's silence made him a symbol of dignity, resilience, and moral strength. While other political figures were engaging in loud, fiery rhetoric, Mandela quietly led by example, speaking only when his words would carry the most weight. Even during the early years of his presidency, Mandela used silence as a tool to build his influence. He was known for his ability to stay calm and composed in difficult situations, refraining from speaking impulsively. His silence in moments of tension allowed him to maintain control over his emotions and his responses. This strategic use of silence made him appear more thoughtful, deliberate, and wise, qualities that earned him deep respect both within South Africa and internationally. Mandela's power did not come from how much he spoke, but from how carefully he chose his moments to speak, ensuring that his words were always aligned with his greater vision for the country. Mandela's silence also gave him a sense of moral authority. As a leader who had spent 27 years in prison fighting against the oppressive apartheid regime, his silence spoke volumes about his commitment to his cause. His ability to remain composed and silent in the face of adversity reinforced his reputation as a leader who was not swayed by emotion or the desire for personal glory. His silence conveyed a sense of inner strength and conviction, which made people more inclined to follow him. They understood that Mandela's words were not given lightly, and when he spoke, it was with profound wisdom and clarity. His leadership demonstrated that silence can be a powerful force for building respect and maintaining authority. This dynamic between silence and power is not unique to Mandela. It can be observed in many influential leaders throughout history. Mahatma Gandhi, for example, used silence as a central part of his political strategy. His commitment to nonviolence and peaceful resistance was often communicated through his actions rather than through rhetoric. By remaining silent and non-reactive in the face of provocation, Gandhi reinforced his moral authority and inspired respect from millions of followers. His silence in critical moments, such as during his hunger strikes or his protests against British colonial rule, created an image of unwavering strength. Gandhi's power lay not in the volume of his speech, but in his ability to maintain his principles and integrity, which made his every word and action that much more impactful. In the world of business, silence plays a similar role in commanding authority. Warren Buffett, for instance, is known for his quiet, deliberate approach to both investing and communication. He speaks very little, but when he does, the world listens. Buffett's words are carefully chosen, and because of his measured approach to communication, he exudes a sense of wisdom and insight that commands respect. His silence is a deliberate strategy that enhances his stature, making him appear more authoritative. By not speaking frequently, Buffett ensures that his words are taken seriously and are remembered long after they are spoken. In business negotiations, silence can be a powerful weapon. When one party remains silent, the other party may feel compelled to fill the void with more words, often revealing information that they would rather keep private. This creates an imbalance in the flow of information, with the silent party holding an advantage. The ability to remain silent in these situations signals control, strength, and self-assurance. People tend to admire those who do not feel the need to fill every silence with words, as they project an air of confidence and composure. This is particularly important in high-stakes negotiations, where a single word or gesture can shift the balance of power. In social settings as well, silence can elevate a person's status. Think about social gatherings or professional events where individuals are vying for attention. The person who speaks the most may initially draw attention, but over time, their constant chatter can become overwhelming, and they may be perceived as lacking substance. On the other hand, someone who speaks less but with intention can captivate the room with their presence. Their silence creates an aura of mystery and depth, causing others to pay closer attention when they do choose to speak. This is why quiet individuals are often seen as possessing a certain magnetism. Their silence invites curiosity, making their words much more powerful when they do engage in conversation. Silence also has the effect of allowing individuals to carefully assess the dynamics of a situation before they respond. By remaining quiet, one can observe the actions, emotions, and underlying motives of others, gaining insight that can inform their response. This is particularly useful in conflict resolution, where a hasty or emotional reaction can escalate a situation unnecessarily. The individual who is able to maintain silence in such moments appears calm and composed, garnering respect from others for their ability to remain steady under pressure. This kind of composed silence can often defuse tension and create an environment in which others are more willing to listen and collaborate. In essence, silence creates power not through absence, but through presence. When someone speaks less, their presence grows stronger and their words carry more significance. People naturally assign greater value to what is not immediately available to them. And this is particularly true of silence. The person who remains silent becomes a figure of intrigue and authority. They become someone who is not easily understood, someone whose thoughts are not immediately accessible, which only adds to their power. In a world that is constantly filled with noise, both literal and metaphorical, those who understand the power of silence are able to carve out space for themselves as figures of authority and influence. Silence allows individuals to manage their image, control their narrative, and strategically decide when to speak and when to remain silent. In doing so, they shape the way others perceive them, commanding respect without the need to assert their presence with excessive words. Ultimately, silence is not a passive act, but a powerful tool for building influence and power. It allows individuals to remain in control, to assess situations with clarity, and to project an image of authority and wisdom. Whether in leadership, business, or social interactions, silence can elevate a person's standing, making them appear more formidable and respected. In a world full of noise, those who master the art of silence find themselves in positions of power and influence people whose words are few, but whose presence is profound. Silence, often overlooked and undervalued, is a powerful tool that transcends history and continues to prove its worth in modern-day life. Whether in the realms of politics, business, or personal relationships, the strategic use of silence has long been recognized as an essential asset. Machiavelli, one of the greatest thinkers in political strategy, highlighted the importance of silence as a deliberate choice that can shape outcomes, control power dynamics, and preserve flexibility. Silence isn't just the absence of speech, it's an active strategy that involves careful calculation, restraint, and an understanding of its psychological and tactical effects. In a world where words are often overused and misinterpreted, silence can serve as a more powerful form of communication, one that conveys authority, wisdom, and intent. One of the key reasons silence holds such power is that it preserves options and allows individuals to control the flow of information. In politics, silence enables leaders to avoid prematurely committing to positions that may limit their future flexibility. For example, Many successful leaders, like Winston Churchill, understood the power of not speaking too soon. In times of war or crisis, Churchill's deliberate restraint in his speeches gave him room to maneuver, adapt to new information, and avoid unnecessary exposure of his intentions. By holding his cards close, Churchill maintained an aura of mystery and unpredictability, which proved to be advantageous in both strategic decision-making and maintaining the loyalty of his allies. The same principles apply to business and negotiations. Silence in business can be an effective way to gather information, assess the situation, and decide on the best course of action. Think of Warren Buffett, who speaks sparingly but with great impact. Buffett's silence not only allows him to maintain control of the narrative, but also forces others to reveal more about their positions and strategies. Similarly, in negotiations, the person who remains silent may compel the other party to divulge more information than they intended. Silence, therefore, not only preserves one's position, but also forces others to expose vulnerabilities that can later be leveraged for a favorable outcome. Silence can also create a sense of power and authority. Those who speak less are often seen as more profound, as their words carry more weight. Just as Steve Jobs rarely spoke in public, yet his words were always anticipated and valued. The less a person speaks, the more respect they often command. This is not just about withholding words, but strategically using them when they can have the greatest impact. In many ways, this reflects the psychological principle that humans tend to value what is scarce. When someone speaks too much, their words lose value, but when someone speaks less, their words are often seen as more significant, thought-provoking, and worthy of consideration. The ability to remain silent also brings flexibility, an attribute that is critical when navigating complex situations. In times of crisis, leaders who know when to stay silent are often better equipped to make sound decisions. Silence provides the mental space to process information, weigh options, and formulate a response based on the most current data. In contrast, hasty words or rash decisions made without fully understanding the context can lead to regret and missed opportunities. Leaders who stay silent in the heat of the moment demonstrate control over their emotions, ensuring that their actions are guided by reason and strategy rather than impulsive reaction. Furthermore, silence fosters freedom. By not immediately speaking or acting, individuals preserve their ability to adapt and pivot. Think of the business world, where companies often face rapid changes in consumer behavior, technology, or competition. Companies that fail to remain silent and flexible, those that rush to make statements or commitments without carefully evaluating the situation, can find themselves locked into outdated models or unwise investments. Companies like Amazon, under the leadership of Jeff Bezos, succeeded in part because of their ability to remain silent at strategic points, allowing the company to adapt its business model based on emerging trends, rather than rushing into ill-informed decisions. This concept of silence, promoting freedom, extends to the personal realm as well. How often have we seen people speak impulsively in situations where restraint would have been more advantageous? Silence, in personal relationships or negotiations, allows individuals to maintain a position of power by not revealing too much about their thoughts or emotions. It creates a psychological edge, as it forces others to fill the silence with their own words, often exposing their inner motivations. This kind of strategic silence is critical in conflict resolution, where a hasty word or reaction can escalate tensions unnecessarily. By staying silent, individuals can create space for reflection, de-escalate conflicts, and craft more effective responses. Importantly, silence also fosters respect. When you choose not to speak constantly, it signals to others that you are in control and thoughtful in your approach. Nelson Mandela famously used silence to maintain his dignity and strength during his imprisonment, making every word he uttered more significant. His deliberate silence allowed him to project an image of unwavering moral authority and strategic brilliance. His ability to remain composed and silent in moments of personal and national crisis earned him deep respect from both allies and adversaries. This ability to use silence as a weapon for building respect and power was crucial to his leadership. The quiet authority that comes from silence is not just about what you choose not to say, but about how you manage the space around you. When you remain silent, you create an environment where others feel compelled to speak, often revealing more than they intend. This is a form of psychological leverage that allows you to listen more, gather more information, and make decisions that are better informed. Leaders and negotiators who understand this dynamic know that silence gives them the power to manipulate the flow of information and guide the direction of discussions without needing to dominate the conversation. Finally, the ultimate lesson from this strategic use of silence is that less is often more. In a world that prizes constant communication and the need to be heard, there's profound wisdom in knowing when to speak and when to remain silent. Silence is not about passivity. It is about deliberate control. By speaking less, you maintain more power, preserve your options, and ensure that your words carry more weight when you do choose to speak. This strategy can be applied in all areas of life, whether in leadership, business, or personal interactions, and can make the difference between success and failure. In conclusion, silence is far more than a lack of sound. It is a tool for maintaining power, gaining respect, and preserving flexibility in an often unpredictable world. Whether you're navigating a complex business negotiation, dealing with a personal conflict, or leading in times of crisis, knowing when to speak and when to remain silent is one of the most effective strategies for success. In fact, the question we should all ask ourselves is, are we speaking too much and missing the opportunity for strategic silence? In a world that never stops talking, silence has become a rare commodity, and mastering its power is the key to unlocking true influence and authority. And there you have it. Silence is not just the absence of words. It is an active strategy that speaks volumes. Whether it's in leadership, business, or everyday interactions, knowing when to remain silent can give you control over any situation. By withholding your words, you maintain your flexibility, avoid unnecessary mistakes, and gain the respect and authority of those around you. Just think about it. How many times have you spoken too quickly, only to regret your words? Or witnessed someone dominate a conversation, only to lose their influence over time? Now you know that strategic silence can be your key to success. So, ask yourself, are you speaking too much and missing the opportunity for silence to work in your favor? If you want to change the way you approach conversations and decisions, the next time you face a high-stakes situation, remember that sometimes the best thing you can do is say nothing at all. If you enjoyed this video and are ready to start using silence as your secret weapon, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Your support keeps us creating content that helps you succeed in every aspect of life. And if you really found value in what we shared, don't hesitate to use that super thanks button. Your contributions help us reach even more people who could benefit from these strategies. Thanks for watching, and until next time, remember, speak less, listen more, and let silence guide your success.